Hey there, welcome to saas.unbound, brought to you by Saas Group. I'm your host, Anna Nadeina, and this is the show where we chat with inspiring founders and experts to get an inside scoop on how they made their business a success. And today with me is Niklas Dorn, co-founder and CEO at FileStage, a web application to share, review, and approve digital content. And they have gone from being a small bootstrap company to a market leader in content review and approval platforms for marketing teams. And I'm super excited to be here and learn how you did it. So,
Yeah,
welcome.
hi. Thanks for the invite.
Sure. Like I said, super exciting. You've got a great story to tell. You've been around for a while. And let's maybe dig into your background a little bit, how you got here in the first place.
Yeah, so basically, my background is originally studied media management in a master's and worked in marketing, but also e-commerce for a while, always like part-time. And this is also where I personally discovered the main problem that we solve today. Basically, whenever there was marketing content coming from an agency, you need to really like review and approve it, check it, but then also get your buy-in from all the stakeholders in your organization. So it's not just you as a marketing manager. No, you also want your VP of marketing to be happy, the legal team to be happy, product to be happy. And that's basically, yeah, again, where I discovered the problem that we solve today. Yeah.
Yeah, all the marketers are just nodding there, listening to this. Yeah, there's a lot of back and forth when you try to approve content. So, okay, how did you? Well, obviously that was what 2014, right?
Yeah. Official start is 2015, but definitely 2013, 14 we started to explore the idea. Yeah.
Oh, right. How did you validate it? How did you know that it's not just you, and maybe something is wrong with your processes in the company that you worked with?
Yeah, I think it's one of the the most important questions, right? So at the beginning, I don't know, maybe some other founders can relate to that. You are a bit like first time founders. You think you have a really good idea, and then you feel like, no, I can't tell this idea to anybody. I need to protect my idea, and that's completely wrong, right? The good thing is my co-founder basically also stumbled upon the idea from another field. So he was working in video production on the agency side, and basically for 50% of his time he spent on getting buy-in from his customers and playing email ping pongs with them. So the two of us had basically a connection to the problem. That was a starting point. But then we said, okay, maybe it's not just, or maybe it's just us. Maybe we were weird. I don't know. So we went out and really had interviews with 30, 40 freelancers, marketers, video producers, and really asked them, hey, when you produce something, typically, how do you review and approve this with your clients? How do you make sure others have a buy-in? How do you work? How do you communicate? Which tools do you use? What is a big pain point right now? What is really annoying you when you look at a typical week and stuff like that? And then based on that, we took the initial idea that we had that was at the beginning, it was just a video commenting tool that allowed you to share a video and then give precise feedback within a frame. That was the starting point. And from there, we really developed it into a complete review and approval workflow solution, always based on the feedback we got from at the beginning those early users, let's say, and early interview partners, even before beta, and then later on also from customers. Yeah.
Okay, so those were just beta testers, right? They weren't your customers just yet. How did you get to them? Like I always hear from founders that we went and we talked with people, especially people like you said from your target group, right? Not just not your mom, right? You talked to freelancers, marketers. How did you convince people to talk to you? Because I think it's such a big problem to just say, "Hey, can you dedicate an hour or two to this, to something that I'm trying to build?"
I think it's interesting. So I think on the one side we had a really good network coming from the industry. On the one side we knew like marketeers. On the other side we knew like freelancers, especially through the network of my co-founder. Also, our university is like a media university, so there's a large alumni network that we could a bit like untap. that helped. And then based on that, we asked for further interview partners. So we asked the ones that we interviewed, hey, can you make an introduction to somebody else? That worked out pretty fine. And I think also the other thing is a bit like make it interesting. So I think, why should they be part of this interview? So let's say we really said, okay, this is about solving potentially some of your problems. So I think this was also a really good hook for them to start sharing with us. Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. All right. So you said you were testing with them, and initially you had a bit of a different product in place, right? So at what point did you start asking people to buy this solution, and how did you price it, and um, did you grandfather your beta testers and just gave it to them for free just because they helped you build it, or at some point you said you clearly understand the benefits of this solution, so we think you can
Yeah.
pay
Yeah.
for it?
Yeah, definitely was a journey. And let's say also at the beginning, I mean, you cannot start with a complete software suite or something. So you always have to start, from my opinion, with a really niche one point problem fixing solution or something. And for us, the initial trigger was, okay, people have trouble to share videos in 2015, make them accessible for their customers, because back then, yeah, it was not everything was working in the browser still, right? And downloading something was not working. So that was a first trigger point. The other point was, okay, how to give precise feedback, visual feedback, before people basically, what they did is they sent emails with a time code and said, at minute 120 in the upper right corner, please do this and that. And if you had nice clients, maybe they put together a PowerPoint presentation with screenshots explaining you what to change. Those were the nice clients. The other ones were just maybe calling you Friday night and saying, hey, those are my changes, write it down. Okay, thanks. So that was the initial problem starting point. But at this point, we haven't had a product at all. So we just had, let's say, insights, then some mock-ups, well designed. And then based on the first interviews, we created like click dummies, kind of prototypes, and asked again, okay, how do you like this solution? And this is something we repeated for a couple of times until basically a couple of those people that we interviewed said, no, this is really nice. Can I use it? And then we said, yeah, it's just a prototype, but soon. And based on that, we built a bit like an email list for people that wanted to use it, promoted or started like promotion at the same time. I remember that I personally went into a lot of Facebook groups for filmmakers and just said the same thing. Hey, we're working on this problem. Would love to get your feedback. You can use it free at the beginning. So we collected basically beta users. And then we launched it. And then I think maybe 6 to 9 months or something, we didn't charge anything. We just let them use it, improved it, and so on and so forth. And then later on, I mean, we were completely bootstrapped, right? We had then early business angels that really just brought in some money to hire some working students, but really not a lot of money. So we were at the point where basically the business angels said, okay, now you need to prove that you can make money with it in order to raise a round, right? And so basically we just reached out to the active beta users and said, okay, from next month onwards, you need to pay for it. Obviously, we started with a really low pricing point. There was no, let's say, Stripe or something implemented to really charge them automatically. So it was really like, yeah, we will send you an invoice. And a couple of those early beta users did it. And thanks to them, I think they really believed in it. We were able to really grow this further, and then later on raise our first round and professionalize what we did. I was quite, let's say, quite manual at the beginning, but I also feel like it's easy to use technology as an excuse and say, we have no payment provider yet. We first need to implement Stripe. Will take a year, so we cannot charge people. I think to a certain extent, there are always ways to prove your first point, right? So
Sure.
yeah.
Yeah, that's what I hear all the time from like the first stages of a startup, that we made people believe that there is a product or that we are working on a product, but they believed in the solution. And then we just did everything manually. And, we charged with, like you said, an invoice or like a PayPal link or something like this. So, yeah, absolutely agree with you, especially right now, like with all the no code, low code, whatever available, and the price for for developing a product is just it's nothing right now. So yeah, it's not an excuse. Well, maybe it was in 2015. It was a bit more complicated, but now definitely not.
Hmm.
Okay, so you went through Facebook being your first marketing channel and customer acquisition channel. How did it work for you? How did you make sure, or did you at all want to make sure that people converted from this channel? And do you still use it as you scaled?
Hmm. Um, Definitely not using it anymore. I think it was working fine to win the first couple of hundred interested beta users, so to say. So, and again, the trigger point was really to say, "Hey, we're founders, we are bootstrapped, really personal approach, and we have this idea, but we would love to get your honest feedback." And that triggered a lot of people, and I think especially those early adopters, early innovators that you typically have in the life cycle, those people. Um, and I mean, conversion wise, I think we just measured via, I think, analytics and then also the mailing list. You could just see who's coming from Facebook, and we could really see those peaks once I posted something in a group. And then, of course, I became a bit obsessed with finding filmmaker groups worldwide. So I think ended up with maybe 40, 50 different groups, posted different things there. But at a certain time, it becomes saturated. Of course, you cannot do it forever, and then you have to build other channels. And I think what we've done then is to switch over more to outbound mailings and things like that. In addition, and also content marketing is something that we've done pretty early on. Yeah.
Did you try paid advertising on Facebook?
At this time, it was just not possible because we had no money. So
Yeah,
until the
right.
first seed round, basically, there was no cash for things like that. So you just had to do low cost marketing. Yeah.
Okay, and I keep hearing you say we found filmmaker groups,
Mhm.
right? So at what point did you start switching to marketers from from just filmmakers?
Yeah, yeah. Um, I think it's potentially something you see quite often in SaaS, right? You start with a tiny problem. Again, that was video commenting problem, filmmakers. Then from there, the filmmakers, the freelancers, the small production firms brought us into agencies because agencies often work with film producers together. So they came like in contact or got in contact with our product. And through that, basically realized there are more feature requests from people saying, "Hey, it's really cool for video, but could you also do it for PDF or for images or later on also for websites?" And that was a bit like the entry point into the agency world. Let's say going away from just video to all kind of creative content. And so we iterated into that, and then also realized, of course, agencies are closer to brands and so on, and they're bigger. They have more money to spend. They also have a bigger problem. So that was a bit like a natural progression. Um, and then from there, basically, from the people that really worked in the agency field, they started to share content via FileStitch with their clients, aka brand managers, marketing managers, sometimes really large enterprises out there. And so those people got in touch with us as well. And again, we listened to their feedback, asked for feature requests and things like that. And there we learned, okay, we basically need to combine like this easy feedback and sharing on content, the visual part, with a really strong marketing workflow process, let's say, functionality that really allows you to funnel a piece of content through your organization and getting visual feedback from everybody. So again, not just from agency to a marketer, but then also from the marketer to the legal team, to the product team, to the PR team, and so on and so forth. And I think this is, let's say, where the true magic happened. And in terms of now, we feel like we have a real well-rounded product that sits exactly between, like, let's say, the content creation part, so what you do in Figma, Adobe, that side. And then on the other side, I mean, we also realized that companies spend a lot of money on content distribution, social media, but also analytics in this case. But everything that happened in between content creation and publication was such a mess. So email ping pongs, Excel sheets, and you want to, like, super professional companies where everything looks professional really have this gap there in their process. And that was for us, like, let's say, the sweet spot we then identified in terms of, okay, this is exactly what we are going to do. We are not a best of suite. We're not a content creation tool. We're not a project management tool. No, we are review and approval solution, and we are the best ones in this. And left and right, we connect with your existing tools.
Right. Oh, that sounds like you really thought this through, because even for me, like when I first found it, I was like, okay, so this definitely looks like a project management solution, right? And maybe, maybe it's kind of similar with prodpad or something like this. But then I went into it a bit further, and I realized that no, not really. You're just solving this one problem that me as a marketer, I experienced a lot. And yeah, for me it's super exciting. But it also sounds like you went from kind of like a B2C company to a B2B, right? You were targeting just filmmakers and freelancers, right? And then you went to agencies and bigger companies. So also, how did it change your marketing or your customer acquisition?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think we were never like B2C, but I get what you mean. Like, we were like really like the target audience were like
Yeah.
freelancers or really like small production firms with 1 to 10 people or so. And then we really went up market step by step. And by that, of course, you also have to change your marketing strategy. And of course, we tested a lot of things also over time. I also think that some things, let's say, in a certain time period, they work well, and then not anymore. I mean, for us personally, the big learning is we were never really able to master paid. So that's just something, I don't know. I also believe today that, let's say, for paid marketing, most people see through it, especially if you want to market a product to marketeers. They know exactly what you're doing there. So let's say I never felt that this is a good idea to really push for it. And then, of course, it's extremely expensive to test it. What was always working really good is to produce good content, great content that helps marketeers to become even better marketeers. So that's why we were really obsessed with our blog, and really producing more and more of those good content pieces. But then also had a lot of guest posting things going on to just, let's say, untap other audiences. Let's say early days, this was, for example, No Film School, really large community for all about filmmaking and things like that, and just try to contribute and give value. And this helped a lot. And then in parallel, I think the outbound marketing mailing piece, let's say, it becomes more and more tricky today on the one side because you don't want to jeopardize your domain by being a bit like a spammer. But then on the other side, also with GDPR, let's say, it became a lot harder. So let's say for us, it worked for a certain period of time, and it worked quite good to get especially like direct contact to marketeers. But at the same time, I think it's a fine line between sending something that's really valuable, um, even though, let's say, they're not waiting for you to send it.
Right.
But at the same time, let's say, don't not to be annoying and cross that line. So that was a
Yeah.
really, really fine line, and also some learnings, of course, we had to take in terms of how many mails can you send, when, what the content is about. So those were the main things for a certain period of time. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I think like whenever you build something like just Judging by my previous experience, I'm coming from a tech startup, so selling a tech solution to developers, like selling a magic trick to a magician. Same with marketers, right? They know what they want, they know how it's supposed to work, right? They know what pain points it's supposed to solve. So it becomes a bit trickier. So yeah. With paid advertising, I think it never works if you're building something for like this targeted group of professionals, because they just, yeah, they see through it. Okay, and what was the most important or the most crucial feature that you had to um, build based on the feedback? Because I remember from one of your podcasts you said you're a feedback company, right? You still base all your product roadmap on the feedback of your customers. So what was the most important ones, like the ha moment that customer gave you?
Well, tough question, and since I'm not the chief product officer, maybe not the right one. So I think I can just share anecdotally, but maybe one
Sure.
point about feedback company. Yeah, it's true. So I mean, we started by talking to people, and it's something we really made a habit. So we're continuously asking our users basically to get feedback and to request features, and then we have a pretty nice system in place in the background to collect those feature requests and rank those feature requests and score them. And let's say later on, if a feature is prioritized, we will reach out to the users again that ask for it and show them mock-ups and make sure it's really a solution to the problem they shared with us. And then, of course, once it's published, we also inform them again, hey, here's your feature that you requested. And I think that creates a lot of buy-in in the community.
Oh yeah.
And then I think over time, there were potentially a couple of features that really worked out. I think on the one side, it's again usage driven. So I think adding all alt file types was a thing we really worked on for a lot of time. So again, video, no matter what kind of images, HTML was the latest in this area, but then also any kind of PDF or doc files. So at the end, we want to be the solution where you just think, okay, whenever I have a content to share and discuss with somebody and I need an approval, I can just throw it into FileStage and work is done. And I never have to think about, is this the right format for FileStage or do I need to use something else? So that was one of the biggest things we solved. And I think the more we did that, the more usage we also got. And then the other big feature, I think that was really like a hell of a work, like maybe 9 months or something, was to really build workflow functionality into FileStage. So at the beginning was basically a bit like a Dropbox or something, maybe sharing
Okay.
files, getting really precise feedback done. And then over time, really implemented like step-by-step review workflows, completely customizable, where you can define first step, it's me, second step again is legal. Nowadays, we also added automations. I think that's a really powerful thing as well, because we want to make people more productive. We want to save time for marketeers, right? And normally, a marketeer has never enough time, always new ideas, projects. So the less they have to spend with, at the end, it's annoying, like content review, the better. The more we automatically do for them and filter, the better. So nowadays, we have like automation features that automatically help you by, hey, I throw this file here in the workflow, and then I know in 3 days, if nobody reacts, they get a message from FileStage and get a reminder. Once it is approved by a certain person, it will go into the next review step automatically to a different group of people. Once the majority of those people has approved it, it will automatically be published. Slack message will be sent to me in terms of your file is ready. So lots of things like that to make your life easier. So yeah, to sum it up in a nutshell, it was like to support all kind of file types, and at the second step, like to really have an easy to use marketing approval workflow feature. Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that it's a very good space to automate, because uh, And I mean, don't get me wrong, I love automation, but I also think that there is the time and the place for it. Some things cannot be automated or shouldn't be automated. And in marketing, I mean, probably in every other job, but I just speak from my own experience. But yeah, this is something that um,
Yeah.
would would
Che-
save it.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I strongly agree. I think there are a couple of jobs that we just learned people normally don't enjoy. So, for example,
yeah,
what you don't enjoy is to run behind your CEO or your finance department or legal and remind them to review your stuff. That's normally not really nice, especially if you're lower in the hierarchy. Maybe it feels you like, can I do it? Also, for agencies, is one of the things. Client comes and say, I need this by tomorrow. And then you produce it and then you say, okay, now I need your feedback. And then you wait 2 weeks. So you can
yeah.
never really hold your deadline. And this is something pressuring people, having a deadline in mind, but at the same time, they need to remind people. So stuff like this, I think, should just be automated, I think. Whereas working really on the creative part, really coming up with new ideas, solutions, input, I think this is normally what people enjoy. So there, I think it doesn't make sense to automate it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So I think it also speaks to just the company culture, right? It's something that adds to the company culture. If it whether um, it probably doesn't add any authority to people, like you said, a bit lower in the hierarchy, um, but then again, it lifts off that pressure point where you have to just ping everybody every day, like do this for me, do this for me. So yeah. Okay, and just something interesting I noticed, and you're not the first founder to say that, right? I've heard a lot of founders of companies that scaled say, well, you know what, this is not really what I do, right? I'm not a product manager, so I'm not the best person to answer that question. So, how has your role changed as a CEO as you guys have grown, right? Because obviously, like in 2015, you probably knew absolutely everything that's going on and how it's going on. So, what's your role now? Is it more strategic? Is it like culture building, inspirer, or what is it?
hmm Yeah. Today, I think it's a mixture of being working strategically on the way forward. Also, let's say overseeing a bit like or contributing to the financial planning and the commercial planning. Overseeing, let's say, all the revenue generating roles we see. This is my main job. And then at the same time, of course, C level, especially CEO, you always present your company. I think what I do is on the one side, I have many conversations with other SaaS founders to get more insights, talk to VP marketing, basically to just understand what's going on. So bringing in those insights and sharing them internally. But at the same time, of course, be a bit like the spokesperson about FiStage and what we do. So I think this is also one one part why I'm going into podcasts from time to time to share. So I think this is also what one of the jobs I really enjoy. But yeah, I think overall this is what I currently do. And then coming back to your question, I think at the beginning, 2014 or something. I mean, at the early stage, you do kind of everything, yes. But then with my two co-founders, we pretty early split a bit like roles in terms of they were responsible for the product and the technology. And at the very first time, I defined my job basically as, let's say, protecting them from all the organizational, sorry, word shit out there in terms of setting up the company, the legal stuff, making sure we have a bank account, all those things. I just did it while they were working on the first version of the product. And then from there, turned into, okay, now I'm responsible to market this and win the first beta users. Um, Converted more into a salesperson after a time. So we had then a bit like marketing going on with some people. And so I focused on really selling the first bigger tickets. So I took the role of a salesperson. And then at the same time, always I have been responsible for finance, funding, getting in more revenue, make sure we always have enough fuel to go to the next step and never go bankrupt or something. Also accounting and all of that. Always hated accounting, hated it. It killed my Friday
All the
nights.
fun
And
stuff.
yeah. And then luckily over time, I was able basically to find a really good CFO that built a team for us to now run like the financial part, investor relations, and also accounting. And it helps a lot. So I can now focus even more on strategy and the commercial part.
Right. Okay. But that also means that you should have hired people that whether do it as good as you used to or even better, right? And this is also something that I've heard here on the podcast. If you don't hire the right people, it will affect the company badly in the long run. So, what's your experience with it? And don't name any names, but did you have like bad hires? And in terms of what was it, cultural? Was it, I don't know, just difficult to work with? And how did you manage it? And what is the culture that you're building right now?
Yeah, I think definitely had some bad hires, or basically I think the people were not bad person or something, but just like not a good fit for the stage we were in. So I think at the end it's always a bit like our fault, management fault, if you go for the wrong people. But I mean, we're first time founders, so let's say I never hired a VP marketing or VP sales. So let's say it was easier, but still hard sometimes for the roles I did myself before. So I did sales, so I kind of had a clue how it should look like. Um, However, it was like a learning curve. So one of the things we learned is to really make sure we check the culture in the job
Right.
interviews and not just, let's say, the skills. So culture was really helpful. So said it a couple of times somewhere else, but I think at the beginning I thought like company culture is something you find in a management textbook in university and don't need it. It's like, hey, you are a startup. Culture is automatically cool and everybody, not gonna happen.
Everybody's yeah, is a hacker, and we have
Yeah,
the same
everybody has to
spirit.
tune and wants to rule the world and whatever.
Yeah.
So, not gonna happen if you want to grow, especially in a fully remote company like Feist, that you have to carefully build a culture. So on the one side, we at a certain moment defined a bit like our cultural values and what kind of DNA do we have, what kind of company are we, what's important for us, how do we want to work together, what do we expect from each other, and that was taken into certain cultural values. And then basically we built that in all our job interviews. So we try to tell them more about our culture when we hire. But then also there's always a culture interview with people that are not from the same department that are hiring you. Just cross check if we feel that is a good thing. And by
Right.
that, I think we were able to reduce the number of wrong hires a lot from a cultural aspect. Um, and then from a skill level aspect, I think what we also learned is the trap is that let's say the moment you have a bit more money through investing, you feel like now I can afford really good people and I want to hire fast, grow a great team. Learnings, I would say it's better to what also people say, right? Hire a bit slower for quality, and especially look for previous experience. So ideally, if you are 10 people today and you want to grow to 30, try to find somebody that has seen this journey already from 10 to 30. And then somebody that's
Yeah.
seen this journey from 30 to 100. Rather than going for, hey, I was working for this company with 5,000 people and I had 20 people in marketing under me and I was really successful. And you think, yeah, okay, but here you're going to have two people and you really need to juggle between hands-on and strategy. And I think this is where we have seen many people fail in terms of they're either like super strategical and not hands-on at all, or they're
Yeah.
just too hands-on and cannot really oversee the long-term vision. And getting that right, I think, is always a challenge if you're not a huge company. Yeah.
True. Oh yeah. Amen. I mean, seriously, I couldn't have said it better myself. Like, right, if you're at a certain stage with the company, and for some companies, it makes sense to hire an a super expert, especially if you're in tech and you just want to um, overthrow everybody else with the tech that you're building, then maybe it makes sense. But if it's someone in marketing, especially, it has to align with your culture, because it's a creative job, so you kind of have to be in the same headspace as people you work with. All
Yeah,
right.
especially for marketing. I mean, I realized as well, right? Marketing is not marketing. There are, let's say, language or brand oriented people. There are people that take it from a visual point. Then there are marketeers that really take it from a numbers point and just see as, okay, I need to produce 500 leads. Okay, I go for it, no matter how, let's say, dirty it looks. So I think it also really depends what you need. And that means like you need to know basically where you are and what the next step is. Uh, but this makes it, of course, extremely difficult because as a company, a startup, you never really know for sure what will be in 12 or
Yeah.
24 months, even if you pretend to say, So I think this is the toughest thing I think to get right. Yeah.
Yeah. It's what they say about your forecasts in your pitch when you pitch to investors. Just skip it. No one knows what's going to happen. It's just wishful thinking. But okay, on that note, do you have any kind of hack that you're using that you may have never shared before, whether in hiring or in finances? Like, for example, I had this interview, and I'm not sharing it because it was so amazing. It was just a hack that I wish everyone was using, uh, just because it was so weird. Like, I was interviewed for a marketing role in a company, and they just skipped like all the questions that made sense, like about my experience or about culture or like anything that you would expect from an interview. And they only asked me like weird questions, something like, what if you woke up and everything is purple but bread? What happened? And I was like, what? How is it going to help you or me understand that we're right for each other?
Yeah.
So but they said it was their hack to understand whether a person is a creative thinker or a creative problem solver. So what's your hack?
Yeah. Not sure if I can share all my great hacks. I think looking
Just a
at the
couple.
at the hiring thing, I think what we learned there too, that was a bit like the aha moment. On the one side, we ask people about their energy level in terms of what, when you think about your last jobs, what were things that really boosted your energy and didn't feel like work? And then the other way around, like what drained your energy? That's a really good thing to understand if their sweet spot is matching with your job profile, really. Um, and then on the other side, when we filter people that apply, the best ones later on, for us at least, were the ones that were really concrete about the results they have achieved. So rather saying, I launched 5 campaigns and produced marketing collateral, blah, 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 blah. They were like, in the last 6 months, I achieved 6% lead growth by pushing blog productivity. And those statements, like, okay, they're not, let's say, bullshitting around. They really have done something and were really responsible for pushing target or achieving targets. That was one big thing, one big hack. And then on the other side, in the interview, we asked them basically, really mean question, but it helps a lot. If we hire you now and we're super happy and you say yes, you want to join our company, at what point would you fire yourself again from our company?
Oh, wow.
And why. And I
People are
was
really
also really,
surprised.
really good to understand their kind of value and perception to the job in terms of how much time do they think they have to achieve certain things, what is important they want to achieve. So questions like that really, really helped, I think, to see a bit more straight. Yeah, because at the end, I think FiStage will really need like hands-on people that really can produce results, see numbers clearly, and let's say don't shy away from focusing on the right things. So
Right. Now I'm thinking when when I would fire myself from saas group.
yeah.
No, please don't.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, just a couple more questions. First, what's the biggest win and the biggest failure so far? Maybe for you personally, as you know, as the CEO, where you think you maybe failed a bit, or for a company.
Oh.
I sometimes feel
Yes.
that I have
Yeah,
to
and it needs a bit of time. So
that I have to send this
yeah,
question up front, but then I think no, I
no,
just love how people
just play
go
some
to that
elevator
space.
music in
Yeah.
between, so I can have time to think. No, I think, of course, when I think about it, maybe there are 10 different things where I would say afterwards, well, you're smarter. That was not a smart move. In general, I think spending way too much on paid advertising without proper measurements in place. On the one side, triggered by early investors in terms of, you need to produce growth, and with paid advertising, everything's easy. And they're, let's say, not being 100% behind it.
It's a trap.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So you spend it, and the thing where also we're seeing leads coming through it to the website. They even signed up for a solution, right? But then it took us, I don't know, 6 to 9 months until we realized all of those people we want through advertising were basically not using the product later on. They were just joining and then dead. So it was a mixture between having the proper measurements in place and only then start to do it, and then also, of course, be on top of things and say, okay, when is this a success? When are we going to stop it? That was definitely something, because it's not just the time you spend on it and the distraction, but at the same time, it's really burning money, right? Whereas other marketing channels, it's only your time and not additional money for this. Definitely a really tough one. And then also say, maybe it would have been smarter to take this money and invest in one or two really good people that drive it forward, rather than, let's say, sending it to Facebook and then Google.
Yeah.
So yeah, one of the learnings, I think.
Okay, so no paid advertisement for early stages. What was the win?
The win, I think, is really to focus on our users, on their feedback constantly. Focus everything around that, and really make sure we constantly get their feedback and really deliver the best customer service we can. We try to deliver and solve their problems. That really helped us, I think, to grow and reach product market fit and build a user base that likes us, until to a point today where we basically went into the product-led growth direction now. We now have a free version as well, and stuff like that. I think would have never been possible without the product at this level already. So definitely one of the biggest achievements or good things, I think.
Cool. All right. And the question that, again, I couldn't skip, just because you're also in marketing, right? And there is AI, and we're talking about automation too. So, are you planning to implement some kind of AI solution? Do you think AI is good for marketers? And where do you think we could leverage it?
Definitely yes. Can't tell too much. I mean, everybody is
Oh, no.
talking about AI. It was already on the lists for 2-3 years. For us, AI makes sense, let's say, when you have a real use case. And for us, the real use case that we are solving, again, is that marketeers should become more productive and spend less time reviewing content and on a manual base. So our vision is here to get rid of repetitive tasks in the review and approval space. So this means whenever week by week you are checking catalogs if the right disclaimers from a legal perspective are there, yes, no, or if your new brochure is in line with the brand corporate design and things like that. That's something where we just see, okay, this can be automated, rule based, and I can help you with that. And that's for us really the entry point. And then, of course, there are more things that can be achieved there, especially giving recommendations later on about how to improve your process. Hey, if you want to, let's say, reduce turnaround time from 60 to 30 days, then we have seen in our insights feature here that you spend 20% maybe in the review with product, but 80% of the time is spent with legal. But you only have one person there reviewing. So automated recommendation is, okay, you either need to make it a higher priority there, hire more people. If you really want to bring this down, it just doesn't make sense to go and try to speed up the product review process. You need to attack here. I think providing those insights to the management level, or other insights like you're working with 10 different vendors, 10 different agencies. On the one side, maybe some agencies have a really nice hourly rate and that looks cheap, but then you learn over time, you have always 10 review rounds, feedback loops with this one agency. So they just burn your own stuff, stealing time from them. And as we know, internal staff costs are also pretty high. So in reality, basically, they have an hourly rate that's nice, but basically you burn half your stuff with them. Whereas maybe there's another agency that has a higher rate, but everything is completed within 3 review rounds. So I think this is stuff we want to just give more insights to and help people to make better decisions about the review and approval process. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. That again, that's a very good, I think, space to automate. Right, you just want to know something faster and not spend too much time researching it, especially if you're an agency and you've got like too many vendors that you're working with and you just too many projects on hand. But amazing. Well, I'm really excited to see how you're going to implement it and make sure I know where you're going. But it was great talking to you. It's a great story that you have. And I really liked your hacks. I'm definitely going to share it with the team if they don't listen to the podcast.
They must listen to it.
They must. Yeah, thank you so much, Niklas. And yeah, all the best with File Stage.
Thanks a lot. And thanks a lot for the interview. Really, really good
Thank you.
questions.
All
All
right.
right.
Take care.
Take care. Bye bye.